No, 2 Toms.
2 Toms.
And two pilots. Little age gap.
Pardon?
A little age gap.
A little age gap.
Little age gap, yeah. Both still flying?
Great. No.
You flying?
Well, I haven't flown for the past couple of years now.
Yeah. Do you have a license?
Oh, I do have the license on.
Yeah. And you're a full-time pilot?
No, not full time. I have a license.
You fly commercially? And how, Tom, when you took it up, how long ago was that?
I took it up when we formed the Mayo Flying Club in 1967 when the airport opened in Castlebar.
In Castlebar.
And it was formed by myself and Liam Lyons, and there was O'Neill lads from Ballina, and there was
Tom Tuffy.
Tom Tuffy wasn't the other guy. Sean. Get the name right.
What about the trainer?
And then we got a fellow from Shannon and Ryan Merrick to come up every Saturday and Sunday, and we were learning flying Castlebar. And then that kind of fell asunder, and we went and we got together the club and we bought a brand new Cherokee 140, and it was delivered to Castlebar at 12 o'clock on the 18th of December 1968.
1968. And how much did it cost?
It cost 4,700 and there was 5,000 for a radio, 500 for a radio.
So like 5,000.
Over 5,000, yeah.
And how many of you chipped in for that?
Well, what we did at the time was we sold shares of £100, different ones about them. People that was interested in the flying and all that, I would pay for that. And continued on from there.
So you got 50 shares, that's 50 in around,
yes,
right? And who was had you a president or a captain of the club?
Well, yes. The fellow's name,
I know it's off there. It's a long time ago now, yeah.
It's a long time ago.
It's a long time ago, yeah.
He was a teacher and he lived in Balcarroll.
And he was an instructor.
He was the chairman, and then I can't not remember who the treasurers be at the time.
And was Peter Ryan involved in it at that time?
Well, no, they opened the airport, but they weren't involved in the club.
In the club, yeah. And was the airport busy that time?
Not that busy. The Peter Ryan and the company, they bought a Cherokee 6. It was a Cherokee 6-seater, and they had that for a short while, and then they sold that and they bought an Aztec, a twin-engine airplane, more suitable for commercial flying. And they had the Aztec for some time.
And how many would that carry at the time?
And the Aztec would carry 5 at the pilot, 6 with
6, yeah.
And then they bought an Islander that would carry 10. And it was Ireland West Airways. They were registered now. And then the company was opened in Galway. There was some dispute about a license at the time. The Galway Club wanted a license, but anyway, the Galway Club got the license and they were doing the Arden Islands. And then the Aztec got broke up in an accident, I think, and spun into a field somewhere up in Wicklow or something. And they had the other plane for one, and that company fizzled out. But the club was still there, and there were planes coming in and going out there. Different people from England and different places, Then they tried to start a company there one time, bringing shellfish, oyster or something like that to France. And the fellow had a Cherokee 6, and he overloaded it, and he had out in the sea beside him. And it didn't take off, and it would have crossed the road and we were round up in the ditch to the far side.
I remember that, yeah. And was it badly damaged?
Oh, yes.
Right off? Huh?
Well, I don't know how it was taken away. It took the wings off and it was taken away, and it took.
And where did you learn to fly, Tom? There, was it?
I started in Castlebar.
Yeah.
About 1973. And at the time it was.
When did you start?
73.
73?
Yeah. And the flying was.
That was the year I got my full license.
Was it really? At the time it was £6 an hour. And I was earning 12.
It was expensive.
So about half an hour a week, every chance we got was £3. And you do half an hour maybe. And that was enough because there'd be so much information coming at you in half an hour, which is about as much as you could take on board and be useful.
So you had to go and look it up, read it up anyway, and study it and all that, had you?
You had to do a fair bit of studying, but it took about 40 hours flying time to be kind of to have your PPL status, and then you have to do a check ride for that. But I learned to fly. I did my first solo in Castlebar, and at the time it was a tricky airport because there was a main road at one end and there was the railway line at the other, and there was a gantry at the railway line end of it. So you had to kind of bunny hop over that and land the airplane. And the same thing with the other side, the road side. If an articulated truck came by as you were about to land, you had to kind of bunny hop over that as well. And it was one of the more...
Would it be acceptable nowadays? Huh?
It would, but it would still be very restricted airport in terms of what could land there.
Who owned the land at that time?
Peter Ryan.
Peter Ryan, yeah.
And then when he sold it, Ferranti bought it.
Ranty had it.
And Ferranti then was interested in the airport that he could land the airplane there. So it was the flying club that ran the airport there, the insurance and all that kind of stuff for years. And then when it was sold, Donald McAlin bought it, God rest his soul. And
Skinty.
He kept it Skinty and he kept it until he sold it.
Yeah. He was able to fly himself.
Oh, he was, yes.
He had a license, yeah.
Good fly.
He could fly, yeah. Downtown.
But not
No, it wasn't him that did that now.
Okay, we move on.
as soon as knock was available, the kind of I ended up doing the rest of my flying out of Knock.
And did you have to train more for? What do you fly nowadays when you fly?
Well, I've been flying different private jets, but at the time we were just flying single-engined piston aircraft, 4-seater, because the bigger you went, the more expensive it became. So you'd fly the cheapest possible aircraft in terms of it was realistic and it was reasonably safe. But the flying we were doing was probably it took more skill than modern aircraft would, because it was all hand flying. There was no autopilot or anything else, and you were depending on a little mechanical 4-cylinder engine to keep going. And the requirement for flying skill at that level is way more than it is for at an advanced level like in a jet.
Of course, they're all automated, are they?
Totally automated.
Totally.
Computer flight.
Can they fly on their own?
They can. They fly on their own all the time. Well,
And can they land on their own?
yeah, they can.
They can.
They can.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. Yeah.
Just as long as the airport had the equipment to handle that. A lot of airports don't have that equipment, you see.
I remember looking at the 747s in airports and said, how did they get that off the ground?
Yeah.
The size of them. It's unbelievable, yeah. Unbelievable.
It is kind of
A miracle, isn't it?
It is an interesting area. The whole science of it is fascinating. And it is kind of. Tom and myself would have been fascinated by the same technology and by the same. Would have been driven by the same interest all the time. And most people who are kind of mechanically minded and have a good mechanical aptitude and are attracted to that kind of thing because they're fascinated by it.
And have you ever involved in a crash? You ever in a crash?
No, never.
Or crash landing, no?
No, and I never went astray or got lost or anything like that in my life. But that was all due. It's one thing that I did. One thing I did, I paid great attention the night before if I was going somewhere to do all my flight plans and everything. Right. You wouldn't be wondering about anything when you're flying.
Yeah. Is it more popular now? Are there many doing it now? Are there many flying now? Are there more flying? I don't think there are, actually.
There's a lot flying, but there's a lot of people flying with private airplanes around the countryside. There's a boy had an air stuck back in Tourmakeady in Churchfield. And he flies up and down to Dublin all the time working on. And what he flies is the modern type aircraft, one of the CKs, and they use the modern engine.
Yeah, the more modern.
And the planes we flew, the category A, as it would be, for that's the ones that you always learn to fly in one time. They burn anywhere from 6 or 7 gallons an hour, and I was flying the Bulldog for Kieran Thompson, it burns about 11 gallons an hour. And that in fuel for 1 hour cost probably about €150. Now, they're flying the model airplane, the modern airplane, it's the same size as the Cessna 152 that we learned to fly in, and that kind of, they burn 6 to 8 gallons. Only burns about 2.5 gallons. And it can be car fuel, which is a quarter of the price.
Very good.
Yeah, the airplanes we
But
flew
you're
in-
restricted to height. If you go much above 5,000 feet there, the petrol will bubble out and
Okay.
Most modern airplanes would be regarded as microlights.
they're known as microlights.
Yeah. Rather than kind of conventional airplanes.
Now some of the microlights are really skimpy thing, but this 3K, it's a lovely airplane. I flew it.
Did you ever fly a microlight?
Yeah, I did. I flew microlight with a friend in France years ago.
They're awful skinny.
Very skinny. Yeah, absolutely. You need to have a lot of confidence in your equipment.
It's like It's like if you're an alcoholic, you know, you'd have to have whiskey. And with enough cheap whiskey and cheap whiskey, if you're bad enough, you'd have to supply it as the same.
Exactly. Yeah, that was true.
I